Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com. Hello, good morning. Welcome to the program. It is the Thursday edition of the Big Radio Show, and we are ready to go. I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off for the last 45 minutes. Man, good morning. How are you? Are you ready? Are you ready already? Let's get to it, shall we? Let's do this thing and figure out what we can, how we can go, what we can do, and how we can make this thing happen. It's Thursday, and we are ready to go today. In hour one, we've got some discussions, including some turmoil that's facing. It's kind of an interior-centric program today, but I think that we can all learn some stuff from this for what's going on around the state and around the country. This should be an interesting ride this morning. Let's put it that way. So we're going to learn a little bit about some of the controversy that's been facing the Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board. The latest, this is just one in a series of controversies that has been hitting the board, and this is just the latest one. I had to laugh because I had known about this a couple days ago, and then Must Read Alaska threw out a story, and I'm like, oh, I've been wanting to cover this anyway. So we get some good stuff here. We're gonna talk a little bit about this in hour one, plus whatever other headline catches our fancy, or whatever other topic that I feel is matches or is appropriate for the discussion this morning. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. Then in hour two, we're going to be joined by Tammie Wilson, who is a former representative, former legislator, also former assembly member, now running for election again on the Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly. And I want folks down on the peninsula to pay specific attention to this, because as goes Fairbanks, so could to your community, because we've seen this. We've seen where communities that were fairly, stably conservative, or at least a good balance, have slowly been turning blue, right? I mean, Anchorage is the biggest indicator of this. Anchorage used to be fairly balanced. I mean, it would swing one way or the other back and forth, but it has gone solidly towards the more progressive big government side of the pendulum. And when I was growing up and when I was part of what was going on in Fairbanks, I mean, I literally watched, when I was on the assembly, right before my eyes, the whole thing swing from fairly balanced, maybe a shift, maybe a little bit weighted towards the more progressive side of the scale. I watched it go completely to where it was just two of us on the assembly who were even pretending to hold back the size and scope and the growth of government. So it should be a good discussion. I want you to I want you to pay attention to this, because this should be it should be a really good discussion. And I hope you're taking notes, especially if you're in a community that's not the interior. We need to really we need to really be paying attention here. Lessons learned. Those that are, what's the old adage? That those that fail to learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat it. And there's an addition to that, something along the lines of those that know history are doomed to watch everybody else repeat it with their teeth grinding. Right? We know what's going to happen. We know what's going on here. So it should be a really good discussion in hour 2 with Tammie, and we'll see what it looks like. We'll see how it comes down. So let's go. The pyres are lit. Fairbanks calls for aid. Send conservative votes from the Matsu, says Fat Ray, hearkening back to the Lord of the Rings. Really, we should be paying attention and listening to that. What are some of the other stories we're going to talk about as well? Well, we've got the latest on the goings-on of the court case where the Alaska Democratic Party is trying to peel that Democrat off the ballot because he may interfere with Mary Peltola's election chances, and it'll be interesting to see what the Supreme Court is going to say. They're hearing it on an expedited basis since the printing of the ballots in November is already underway, and any delay in overturning the lower court's decision could impact the elections in a way we've really never seen before. So the appeal is going to be heard today at 10:15 a.m. and it will be live stream on Gavel to Gavel, ktoo.org/gavel. So if you want to go take a look at that and watch it today, you can do so. But that's going to be coming up. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the details in that as well. And what else? What do we get? I guess we should get into it. We should talk about it. Even KTUU picked up this story about what's going on up in Fairbanks. It is oh man, I'm just I don't even know where to begin with this right now. I guess we'll start off with just the description and the testimony by Rita Trometer, who gave public testimony. There's actually been a call by her and others for the resignation of of this school board member. I guess I should give you a little bit of a background here. Let me give you just a bit of the background. The folks up in Fairbanks at News Center, I guess they call it News Center Fairbanks now. It used to be News Center 11. Has a little bit of this story where I was able to get some audio. Here's the intro.
Bobby Burgess has served on the Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board since being sworn into office in October 2023. At last week's meeting of the school board, a member of the community called for his resignation.
Our school system needs to move in one positive step in a good constructive direction by Bobby Burgess stepping down, resign from the school board. He does need to step down. He's a poor representation of the school board member.
Well, that sounds pretty. It sounds pretty, tough. What exactly was the post? Well, apparently, because Burgess and his wife, Karen Shoup, have been fighting people on Facebook and have been accusing and chasing and bullying people on Facebook, or I guess maybe bullying is the wrong word, maybe arguing. And kind of coming out, attack. Somebody said, well, okay. So they went and looked at the public Facebook page and they found a photo. And what exactly is this photo that's got everybody absolutely up in arms?
The photo, taken and posted by Burgess's wife, depicts him wearing only an apron with his bare backside visible.
Parents don't want their students to be exposed to what members are exposing in public on social media.
So apparently she posted this photo of his bare butt hanging out of nothing but an apron and on social media, which, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if that's funny. I mean, maybe, I guess when it's all said and done. This is, but I mean, again, the last time this happened was in Anchorage. Remember in Anchorage with Berkowitz, the butt scandal, Buttgate, where Berkowitz had something similar happen as a public official, and it caused him to step down. Now, this whole thing, I mean, this is so crazy. This whole thing is, but there's a web here. I first of all, I want to point out that there's a bit of a web here going on. So we have Kristen Aronshoup, who is Bobby Burgess's wife. We have Burgess himself, who has been at the center of some controversy, and also going back to the ethics complaint against Barbara Haney. Remember Barbara Haney's ethics complaint, where the ethics board, the advisory board and the ethics board recommended that there be no punishment for the ethics complaint, which was filed by Kristen Aronshoup, the wife of Bobby Burgess. And then Savannah Fletcher and the rest of the members, the majority of the assembly, decided to have an ethics complaint meeting anyway and drag all this out into the light, even though the ethics recommendation from the committee was don't do anything. There was nothing to see here, move along. And then they did the dog and pony show and drug her out and fined her $1 or whatever it was, all that kind of stuff, all again coming from Kristen Aronshoup, who was the one that originally complained about it, and is a contributor to Savannah Fletcher's campaign. And I mean, this is just like this spider web of different people and players and things that are going on. And now they're at the center of the controversy. And what this feels like to me is this feels like a little bit of turnabout. I'm not even going to say fair play. I mean, it's just turnabout. Because the attack has been going on. And really, the genesis of the photo actually coming into the public eye was because Shoup, the wife of Burgess, Shoup went out and was attacking somebody else, namely this guy named Fonz. And here's what he had to say.
Mrs. Burgess wanted to come to my personal Facebook page and wanted to start an argument with me there, and then point blankly accused me of beating women and children.
Right? So let me go on your personal Facebook page and not just disagree with you, but attack you and then accuse you of beating women and children. Right? These are the people who then later on come back and cry, that's not. In fact, here's what Bobby Burgess had to say about the photo after it went out and after it Fonz made a point about it and came out. This was Burgess's response.
I feel like it's a violation of my privacy and my family's privacy.
You posted it on social media. You feel like it's a violation of my privacy. You posted it on the internet. You had an expectation of privacy when you posted it on the
I feel like it's a violation of my privacy and my family's privacy.
Your wife was the. I just can't even. Your wife was the one that posted it. I mean, I feel I'm just they're so mean to me. And because even though my wife was the one that put it out in the public domain. I mean, come on. Are you really? But it gets even worse. They actually brought Kristen Aronshoup on to talk, to testify about it in some way. And we're going to get to that here in just a second. It's amazing. We're the victim here. Feel like they violated my right to privacy. But your wife was the one that went out and was attacking people and accusing people of beating women and children. That's okay. Come on. All right, we got to go. We're going to be back with more in a minute. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Hello, good morning. Welcome to the program. No, I don't have a picture of it. I'm not going to post it up there. But it just wait, see what I did there? This is just madness. It really, really is. And you could see that there's just a handful of people who are trying to organize and move all this stuff behind the scenes. You could see that this is what it's all about. The same handful of names keeps coming up over and over and over again. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit because you folks in Fairbanks, you need to pull harder. You need to get some people together who are really, truly smaller government, who believe in less governmental interference, who believe in this non-intervention, and go out there and fight these people at the polls. You need to go out there and put your candidates up and join the battle, so to speak. I mean, this is madness. These same group of names that keep turning up over and over and over again. I mean, this whole thing is just so freaking nutty at this point. I need to boost the audio on those. Come on, give me my window. Where's my window? Too many screens. I can't find my window. Here it comes. Here it comes. A little slow this morning. All right, there we go. We're gonna get it. The more money they get, the more liberal they become. Yeah, more. Here it is. All right, let me open. I'm sorry. I'm going to open up this window real quick here, and I'm going to.
Bobby Burgess has served on the.
That's not what I wanted. Let me go over here.
I feel like it's
all right. Let me.
Bobby Burgess has served on the Fairbanks North Star Borough.
Stop. All right. I just need to bump the audio level on these kind of things. Nuttier than squirrel poo? Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Isn't that how you guys feel? That's kind of how I feel on this thing. I mean, it is. It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on. No, where's my batch effects here? Oh Lord. I guess I'll just do this the old-fashioned way. Just like that. Yes. Close it. Oh, I can't do it. All right, never mind. All right. Frank says what I was just saying about everybody needs to get involved in the battle. We could do that, MD, but even the current candidates to the right still want more from our pocketbooks. And you're talking about, of course, what you've been discussing, the homeowner or the builder exemption on taxation or something like that Barbara had put forward, right? That's what you have. You're talking about there, Frank. Where's my behind the scenes sound tech today? I am the behind the scenes and in the front of the scenes sound tech. That's what it's all about. If that had been April Smith posting a picture of her bare butt online, they would have come unglued. Oh, they definitely would have called for her resignation. Yeah. No, if that was, April Smith, if that was Melissa Burnett or anybody else that had posted a picture of her butt hanging out she was buck naked except for an apron with her butt hanging out, they definitely would have called for that. But I mean, yeah, definitely a double standard. Definitely a double standard on that. All right. We're going to continue here in just a minute. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's get back to it. Here we go. We're coming up to it right now. Let's do it. Now.
The Michael Duke Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
Okay. Our coverage of Buttgate 2.0 continues. I mean, this, somebody just made a very valid point in the chat room. If this had been April Smith, one of the other more conservative school board members, or maybe Melissa Burnett, and this picture had surfaced on social media, I'm sure the whole school board would be making a hue and cry for them to step down because that's just inappropriate. I mean, that would have been, right? Tell me there's no double standard on this. Tell me there's not a double standard going on all this kind of stuff. It's insane. For those of you just joining us, we're talking about the controversy going on in Fairbanks at the Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board, where a photo of one of the members has come out and there's been calls for his resignation.
The photo, taken and posted by Burgess's wife, depicts him wearing only an apron with his bare backside visible.
Parents don't want their students to be exposed to what members are exposing in public on social media.
That's true. It's true. It's true. And of course, Burgess's comment was, his first reaction to this whole thing was that he just can't believe that people would, that's private.
I feel like it's a violation of my privacy and my family's privacy.
Yeah, but your wife posted it on social media. So then they got a testimony during this video interview from News Center 11 in Fairbanks. They got the audio of apparently his wife, Kristen Aaron Shoup, calls in to I guess apologize. I don't know exactly what. Here, well, you decide for yourself.
It was a foolish thing for me to do, and speaking to someone, they said only a fool argues with fools, and so I had a foolish moment. I should not have said that particular thing, but it was in reaction to being harassed.
And actually, I guess I should set that up a little bit better, because she's not apologizing for posting the picture. The reason the picture was posted is because she was out on somebody else's page who was critical of her husband's policies on the school board, and she personally attacked this guy, Ken Fawns.
Mrs. Burgess wanted to come to my personal Facebook page and wanted to start an argument with me there, and then point blankly accused me of beating women and children.
So she goes on some guy's page who happens to disagree with her husband's policies and immediately starts attacking him. And so her response to the attack was, again,
it was a foolish thing for me to do. And, speaking to someone, they said only a fool argues with fools. And so I had a foolish moment. I should not have said that particular thing, but it was in reaction to being harassed.
So is a reaction to being harassed. But did you really hear what the core of that whole I guess it was an apology, or I mean, I don't think it was. I mean, what was supposed to be an apology? Did you hear the core of that?
They said only a fool argues with fools. And so I had a foolish moment.
Only fools argue with fools. So she's not even saying she's sorry that she's did it. She's just calling her a fool. Or she's just calling Ken, I guess, or Fonz, a fool. So only a fool argues with fools. So she can't even apologize. She's insulting in the so-called apology. And that's the answer. But see, this is where now they get to play the victim again, right? Now their policies, it's all about the victim. Starting off with,
I feel like it's a violation of my privacy and my family's privacy.
I mean, now he's the victim, even though his wife is the one that put it out in the public eye. Then he goes on to say,
Burgess says he wants to see an end to what he calls bullying in the public discourse.
I don't think this is what our community wants. I don't think this is what our community values.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. I mean, okay. I mean, I don't think this is what I'm glad that you're the arbiter of what our community wants and values.
My wife and I, along with others, have been targeted for harassment by a few individuals here in town who, apparently disagree with our politics or think they do. They've never spoken to me. I've never spoken to them. But they have been spreading rumors and defamation about my wife and I.
So, I mean, again, this is again more victimhood, right? Oh, we're victims. We're victims of the attack. We're victims of the attack on this. This is nothing to, they just, and by the way, forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do. Because if you caught it there right in the middle, he was talking about, they disagree with my politics, or they think they do. Or they think they do because, they have never talked to me directly. Because again, without talking to you directly, they really wouldn't know what you stand for, is what they're saying. Right? That's what he's saying. If they really if they really knew what they were talking about, they would come talk to him and then they would understand his policies. That's what he's saying. He's basically saying you're too dumb to understand it without me explaining it to you. Now, if that was true, I mean, I've never talked to Kamala Harris, but I know that I disagree with her policies. But apparently I have to talk to him directly or take the effort to reach out to him and have a conversation with him to understand his policies before I can be informed.
My wife and I, along with others, have been targeted for harassment by a few individuals here in town who, apparently disagree with our politics or think they do. They've never spoken to me. I've never spoken to them. Apparently disagree with our politics or think they do. They've never spoken to me. I've never spoken to them.
So, I mean, of course we have to take, again, more victimhood on this whole thing. And it's not just that. It comes back to, again, this again, remember that we were talking earlier in the week about all the Democrats that didn't want to show up at the ITA forum in Fairbanks, the Interior Taxpayers Association candidate forum that's been going on for 30 years. And they said this is not a legitimate forum. Again, patently false, but that's okay. And then everybody coming up and saying, well, I just didn't feel like I'd get a fair shake. I just feel like they were going to be mean to me. I mean, that's essentially what I'm paraphrasing, but they were going to be mean to me. I have attended a lot of ITA forums, both as a viewer and as a candidate. And I have never seen a candidate be treated poorly. They may have gotten some questions that made them uncomfortable, or hard to answer, but they've never been treated poorly. But that was the reaction. Oh, we're just, but see, they're continuing on this whole thing about it's a conspiracy, it's victimhood, it's a small slice of the population that are harassing us, that are doing all this stuff.
This is something that's been going on for a long time. It's not just me that's being targeted. It's seems to be a coordinated misinformation campaign.
Coordinated misinformation campaign. It's not just me that's being targeted. But remember, if you want to really know what you can't take issue with me unless you call me directly and talk to me. I mean, that's what he's saying.
Apparently disagree with our politics, or think they do. They've never spoken to me. I've never spoken to them.
So, I mean, okay, what? This is how they feel about anybody that disagrees with them.
They said only a fool argues with fools. And so I had a foolish moment.
That's the whole point. We're all fools because we disagree with them, and only a fool argues with fools and everything else. Now, on the good side, at least Fonz didn't put out the full photo when he reposted the photo that Shoop put out herself of her husband.
I blasted it all over Facebook, but I was nice enough to put a smiley face where his butt was.
He put a smiley face. The backside, home of the vertical smile. He put a smiley face right for so at least we got that. But this is what, now again, people are like, well, why are we talking? Don't we have more important things to talk? This is indicative, folks. Do you remember what happened at the school board just a few months ago?
To the other representatives, Representative Tomaszewski, Senator Myers, Representative Kronk, and I slightly give Representative Prax a pass because he didn't vote for it to begin with. So at least you stood by your vote. I am so utterly disappointed. Fairbanks deserved better. You are part of our community, and we were clear what we needed, and you let us all down. And I've heard rumors, and mind you, they're rumors, so newspapers in the audience, I'm fully aware, and don't quote me on it, that you might have sold us down the river for a $70,000 campaign donation. I hope it was worth it.
Remember, this is the school board president who accused 3 sitting legislators essentially of taking a bribe. And all that. I mean, this is what's going on in your. Here's my first question. Can I just say that? Here's my first question. Why are your kids still in school where these people have control? Right? Well, I mean, why would you put your kids in a system that's being controlled by somebody like this? Oh, by the way, yeah, Kristen Aaron Shoop, I forgot to mention, she's not just Bobby Burgess's wife. She actually also serves she serves the school district as part of the diversity. She's on the diversity committee. Is that it? I think it was the diversity and equity committee. I mean, so here she is, not just as a private citizen anymore, but now as somebody who has a public position on this and is out there saying things like this, attacking other people, accusing them of beating women and children and doing all this other kind of stuff, and then is just outraged when somebody pushes back. This is, I mean, folks, especially in Fairbanks, what is going on? I got to tell you, you guys better start gutting up here. You better start finding some candidates to go out there, and not the same old names. Don't pull the same old names out of the hat. You need to come up with some new candidates here who can go back out there and do point counterpoint with these folks that can go out there and be part of this and who want to take the time to serve and run and bring some sanity back to this madness. Absolute sanity back to this madness. Because if you don't, it's only going to get worse from here. All right, we're going to be back here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty bases, liberty base, free thinking radio. All your bases belong to us. Back with more right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Yeah, his wife is on the Diversity and Equity Committee. This is the same committee that met and then went over to and then took all the meeting members and went over and had apparently another gathering at the Queer Collective or whatever in town. I mean, just should have not. Jason's. Instead of harassed, shouldn't it be his assed? Yes, possibly. Yes, possibly. That is actually the correct pronunciation of that word. Say it ain't so, says Rick. You're making a show about someone's butt. Well, I didn't make the show. His wife made the show about someone's butt, but. In response to my comment about whether, April Smith or Melissa Burnett would be chastised and chased off the board for posting a pic like that, Terry does make a valid point. Their spouses wouldn't be posting pictures of naked butts. As much as I admire my spouse's nakedness, I am not going to post pictures of it on the internet. Oh, but you're violating.
I feel like it's a violation of my privacy and my family's privacy.
You're violating.
I feel like it's a violation of my privacy and my family's privacy.
You have no expectation of privacy because you posted it on the internet. And Brian says, but hey, gay porn's fine for students. Don't worry about it. I mean, it's yeah. No, I mean, I just don't even know. Sandy says she posted the picture for their personal page, not for the school board. Sandy, I'm not saying she posted it on the school board page. She posted it in public on the interwebs. I didn't say she posted it on the school board page. She posted. But again, this is the point. Facebook, what? General announcement for the crowd. Facebook Facile Book is actively hiding the corrected spelling of the word but. So they're hiding your comments, apparently, if you use the word but. Maybe you should say batacle. Oh, man. I just... Ryan did say, well, if the ITA isn't real, it can't be subject to harassment. Well, it can't be the source of harassment if it's not real, right? It can't be the source of harassment if it's not real. I'm shocked and Nope. Brian's just asking me. Apparently, I can't see some. Brian, go ahead and unhide all of her comments. Brian is helping me moderate the chat room, and he says that a lot of Barbara's posts are being hidden. I'm not hiding anything. I've noticed that Facebook has a tendency to auto hide comments from certain, I don't know if it's certain people or if there's certain phrases or keywords in there. But Brian, use your best judgment. If you think that the comment is cogent and relevant, go ahead and unhide them. I can't see. I'm not looking at the actual Facebook comment section, which is where it would show me that the comment's been hidden or auto hidden. So go ahead and unhide anything you feel needs to be unhidden there, Brian. I will not censor the free speech of these people unless, somebody gets nasty about something. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling through here. I'm scrolling through all this stuff here. What's going on? Kelly says, but that's what the Republican Party does here. There were many that wanted to serve, and they are told no. The pastors are involved, and it's annoying. Many good people wanted to run, and for some reason they listen when they're told to sit down and shut up. Yeah, I never asked anybody's permission to run for office. I'll be honest with you. I did. I just decided and I did it. Gary says, I've spoken to many in town and not one would run to be part of that poo parade. More are pulling kids out of the system. I mean, yeah. Meanwhile, the Kenai Peninsula Borough School District has decided that homeschoolers will pay double this year to play in sports. Yeah, the rich part of this whole thing, says Barbara Haney, was that Burgess was calling for civility at the same time his wife was calling Fonz a wife beater and a dumb butthead. I can't, what it is. Anyway. All right. We're going to continue on.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke show.
Okay, we're continuing on here. Oh, man. I mean, you never would have thought that the show this morning would be about butts, but there it is. There it is. Here's what I would like to. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they were talking about their frustration with the things that are going on in Fairbanks. And they were using me as a sounding board, and they say, look, I want to bring people's attention to some of the things that are happening in Fairbanks in regards to taxation and the growth of government. And I want to show the powers that be how frustrated the people are and how many people disagree with their policies. And he had some ideas, and the long and the short of it is, I was like, well, no, that idea is a little too dangerous and it'll get you in trouble. This idea really won't do anything. And I said this, basically, the bottom line is that they don't care. And when I say they, the collective they, I'm talking about the bigger government, more power to the government, more invasive government people. They don't care how many people stand against them. They've got the power and they're going to exercise it. They have the power and they're going to exercise it as they see fit because they believe that they can be better at you at fill in the blank. Raising your kids, spending your money, telling you how to live, organizing your life, utilizing your property. You name what it is, and they'll tell you that they have a better plan for you. So you could get 10,000 people in the streets with pitchforks and torches screaming that we are disappointed and in disagreement with you, and they'd be like, oh, look, it's another fringe group. Oh, those are just the fringers. That's not the mainstream. I'm representing them, the silent majority, the mainstream. So I told him, I said, you're wasting your time because these people are not going to listen to you do in those kind of ways. The only way that we can fight back, and what I mean, the we described what the they was. So to me, the we is the more smaller government, more limited government, the smallest footprint we can have, the lowest tax base we can have, the one that bolsters and pushes for a booming economy that allows the free market to work. That kind of we. The only way that we can fight back is to put people in those positions who understand how to win friends and influence people, who can put a cogent point forward, who can speak clearly, who could be statements, who can make their points relevant and be heard, who can make an argument, and who believe in the principles that we believe in. The problem is that many people, probably some of you who listen to this program, are like, yeah, I'm just not participating anymore. This whole thing is just nuts. It's just stupid. I agree. Sometimes it is stupid. It is stupid. It is frustrating. And sometimes I, too, just want to throw my hands up and walk away and be like, you folks do what you do what you're going to do anyway. And I'm just going to be over here living my life as an outlaw, right? I'll just be ungovernable over here. Here's what you need to do. You need to put more people up to do battle. You need more candidates, and not just the same old slate of candidates, the names that you recognize or anything. You need to bring in new blood. There are good people out there who could do a good job of running for office, who could make the argument, who are willing to talk and face people off. And again, not get into the name calling realm. I'm not going to stoop to their level because that serves no one. I'm going to serve the conservative cause while at the same time being open to discussion with anybody about anything, because I want to remind you folks of something. I mean, I know this is sacrilegious because we brought it up the last couple of weeks, but the left and the right, if we're going to, let me just paint a broad brush here and use labels, because sometimes you got to use labels. I know people are like, oh, you can't label me. But let's just say the left and the right, they make up less than half of the people out there. People who identify as being part of the left, Democrats, Progressive, Green Party, whatever it is, and those that identify on the right, the conservatives, the AIP, the constitutionalists, some libertarians, that makes up a small percent. The vast unwashed mass in the middle are the ones who are going out there, and their participation in the process is that they go vote once a year. That they feel like they've done their duty if they go vote. If you don't make an appeal and make a rational argument to people in the middle, without invective, without bomb throwing, without name calling, if you make a logical, rational, reasonable argument to them, you can sway them in your direction. What we need is candidates who can make salient points, who are charismatic enough to be able to catch people's attention, and who can articulate a thought without some kind of invective or personal attack. And they need to be new names. Some of the people who have run over and over and over again, I love some of these people. And some of them need to stay into office or need to go back into office. I agree. But we should also be fostering new blood. Because there's a whole slew of people on the left you ain't never heard of. There's a whole slew of people who are actually in office that if you, like me, stepped out of Fairbanks for 3 or 4 or 5 years and you come back and you go, who's that? I don't recognize any of these names. They're bringing on new blood. And they're doing a good job of it. They are beating us at this game of getting the right people elected to be able to do certain things. And they're very good at doing it at smaller levels, the grassroots, starting off in small committees, working their way up to, boards and commissions, working their way up to the school board, and then working their way up into the assembly. That's what they've done. We need to be better at that. We, on the more conservative, smaller government side, need to be better at that. It's madness. It's madness that this is where we're at, and that these are the things that we're fighting about. I mean, again, I'm not saying that he shouldn't step down, but we see this attack. We see them play the victim. We see them play the victim on the ITA thing. We saw Brandy Hardy play the victim after she accused 3 sitting legislators of taking a bribe. And then she plays the victim of, oh, nobody likes me because I said something that may have hurt their feelings. And then she cries. But again, we need to do better. We need to do better. And to conservatives who are slipping into that vein of, smaller, more limited government, except for my program, be warned. Because we've seen that as well. We've seen that as well across the country. Conservatives, Republicans always used to be for smaller, more limited government no matter what, and no government intervention in your life unless it was absolutely necessary. And now it's like, well, except for the programs that we like, or the social norms that we like, or the things that we like, and now we're all about government coercion to be part of your lives. We need to be better about sticking to the principles and I blame part of this on the Alaska Republican Party because they have been so wishy-washy over the years, and they have, supported people like Murkowski and others who are not true. They're not sticking to the platform. They're not really part of it. And a lot of that comes from them. But screw them. You don't need them to go do the right thing. You can go file for office and run on a Republican Party platform, even if you're not a Republican. You could just say, here are my points, and go down it and articulate it. And again, speak to the masses. Be kind. You could love one another. You could do that and still be principled. Okay, I gotta go. Tammie Wilson's coming up next. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Frank says, we brought in a new face, Savannah. How's that working out? I said, Frank, are you even listening? Are you even listening to what I'm saying? I'm talking about if folks, if folks on the right, I said the left has done well bringing in new faces. Those on the right need to bring in new faces. That's what it's all about. And yes, we need to reach out to the vast unwashed masses in the middle, the people who are not left or right, who have a blend of beliefs, some more conservative, some more liberal, because they make up the majority of the state. Like 60% of the people are independent, unregistered. They don't ascribe to any party philosophy as a whole. I mean, it's madness. Thankfully, Terry says, The Valley has 2 new candidates, Alexi Moore and Jubilee Underwood. I mean, yeah, great. Fresh new faces. And from what from talking to them, they seem like they're pretty straightforward and that they are pretty, that they're pretty conservative. And I like that. That's what we need to do everywhere. Did you just burn that bridge to talking with the new Alaska Republican Party head? I hope not. I mean, I don't think I am saying anything that any Republican with any chutzpah and guts would disagree with. The Republican Party has been part of the problem. I don't think that there's any Republican out there that would, if they were intellectually honest, would disagree with me on. Yeah, Miguel Ramirez, he says, I'm new to the FNSB. Exactly. We need more people like Miguel who can articulate, who are, who can reach out to the middle, who are not just invective and name calling. I mean, yeah. Borbridge Herald says, too bad Cole Snodgrass didn't make the cut on the state. Yes. You know what he should do? He should run at the local level. That's what he should do. He would have been great in the legislature, but you know what? Start small. Start small. Work your way up. That's what you should do. All right. Let me yeah, okay. Was just going to check on Tammie, and I see she just popped up in the green room, so we're getting things ready here. I'm sorry. What is Barbara? Good conservatives, Tammie. And then Frank says she is for paying property owners so they can pay full tuition for students in the Fairbanks North Star Borough. Discriminates who pays taxes and who are exempt from paying. She has not reduced government regulations. I don't know which one Frank is talking about here, if it's Barbara or what, but I know Frank has got a heartburn over some kind of tax break for subdivision, people who are building subdivisions and things like that. I haven't looked into the issue far enough to know whether I even really think that that's correct or not. But anyway, there you go. Prove your mettle. All right. Let me see here. I see Tammie is off to the side. I suppose we should check her. We should check her audio real quick to make sure everything is up and running and good to go, and see where she's at. Hello, Tammie. How are you?
Good. How about you?
It's almost Friday. It's a good day. It's a good day. Your audio's good. Everything's good. Have you been listening this morning? Just out of curiosity, I was just curious if you'd listened to any of what we just talked about.
I have not. Sorry.
Okay, we were talking about Buckgate 2.0, Bobby Burgess and the whole Buckgate scandal. But it's awesome. I know it's just indicative. This whole thing is just. But my final comment on this whole thing, Tammie, and you can pick this up on the other side if you want and give us your thoughts on it. But my whole point is we need to do better. We being the smaller government, more conservative, whether you're a Republican, an AIP, a libertarian, whatever you are, if you're on that side of the political spectrum, we need to do better about getting new candidates in there, new blood, new faces, and people who don't just throw bombs, but people who can actually articulate a point, who can reach to people who are in the middle without, can articulate their point of view and their philosophy without offending them and calling them names and doing these kind of things, because I'm seeing some of that go back and forth. And I'm just like, let's stay on point. Let's stay on task. Let's stay on what's important. Let's be polite as we can be while still being strident in our principles and getting the point across. Because if we are just trying to reach into our own side, we're never going to make it. We've got to reach into that 60% who are in the middle, who are sick and tired of the left and the right killing each other, at every opportunity. And we've got to put some fresh blood in there. That's what I've been saying.
Well, I think people are just getting so frustrated, and that's what you're seeing. Is that they come out and testify, they talk and they feel disrespected.
Yeah.
And then things just get ugly.
I agree. I think that's a big part of it. And we can highlight that without, again, doing the name calling and everything else, but we need to do that. All right. I'm going to put her back in the green room for just a moment. Let's get back to it. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do this thing. Here we go.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Across the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. That's your FM translator. Welcome back to the program. It is hour 2 of this beautiful Thursday edition. Little rainy day. Rainy days and Thursdays always get me down. No, I'm just kidding. We're ready to go. We're ready to jump into it. And we just finished up. It was an interesting hour talking about Buttgate 2.0. This is Buttgate 1.0 is the one that happened in Anchorage with Berkowitz, right? Butkowitz. That was Buttgate 1.0. Now we've got Buttgate 2.0 up in Fairbanks with the school board. I mean, this is politics today. Welcome to it. I mean, it's just, you're home for the politics of personal destruction. All right. Anyway, we talked about that in the last hour, what I thought my solution was. And I hit Tammie Wilson with my solution here just a second ago during the break because she's about to come on board and talk with us about her run for borough assembly. We'll see if she agrees with me or not. But I mean, again, I think just to highlight the whole summate, exactly everything that I said, we need to do better. We being the more conservative side of the spectrum, we being the smaller, more limited government, the AIPs, the constitutionalists, the Republicans, the libertarians, even the conservative leaning independents, we need to do better at reaching out to the people in the middle and doing everything we can to not turn them off. Because why are they quitting? Why are people throwing up their hands in droves? Because they're sick of it. They're sick of it. And yes, I know if you're treated poorly by the other side, well, you just kind of show it to people and say, well, look, we just want to be reasonable. We just want to be reasonable and have our voices be heard. And, look at what's happening. I mean, do better. Oh, it frosts my cookies. I just do better. Do better. All right. Enough of me. Let's talk with the candidate for Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly. Tammie Wilson joins us this morning. Right now, in fact, let's get to it. Good morning, Tammie. How are you?
Good. How about you?
Again, Thursday, a little rainy, but tomorrow's Firearms Friday, and I'm feeling good about it. So that's what it comes down to. All right, Tammie. So let's talk. You are currently running for borough assembly. You actually have a cohort of folks who are running for borough assembly, and you're all trying to work together to try and bring some moderation to what is essentially a almost fully blue assembly at this point. Give folks a little bit of background of who you are, where you came from, just in case they haven't been paying attention and they don't know who you are.
Well, I'm Tammie Wilson. I used to be a legislator, lived that life for about 11 years. And at the end of the day, it's still about local politics, right? That's where it all starts. That's what affects you the most. That's what frustrates you the most, trying to get everybody involved, as you've already talked about. But I find it interesting that you're like, we need to do better. Well, you're absolutely right. We need to do better. We need to, but public comment up here has been to where we testify and we testify and we testify on deaf ears. And sadly enough, when that happens, right, that's when people get frustrated and they'll try anything, right, just to get people to listen. But for me, I want to always be able to afford to live here. I have 4 kids. I've got 6 grandkids. Some of them live up here. I want to make sure they live up here. And at the end of the day, we got to quit taking rights away. You know how that is. You were on the assembly here. And it's just constantly the battle of who does your property belong to? And that should not ever be a question. But, here between all the different types of trails and road programs and everything else for a second-class borough, which we don't have powers over either one, somehow continue to affect, my property and how and what I do with it. And, we didn't move here for that reason, right? We moved here for the freedom that Alaska gives, being courteous to our neighbors, but at the same time, being able to use our land the way we want to use it based on, zoning. There are rules,
right?
But rules continue to change, as the assembly changes, right? And like you said, we're 7-2 right now, pretty lopsided.
Right. And I remember when I when I got on the assembly, it was a pretty even split. There was a kind of a progressive side with a couple 3 members, and then there was a conservative side with a couple 3 members, and then there was kind of a middle of the road, kind of moderate component. And I watched over the course of the 5 years as I was on the assembly, I watched those moderate candidates get kicked to the curb over and over and over again because the left was doing a very good job of putting up new people and getting their ideas out there. And when I left, it was the same thing. It was 7-2. It was me and Lance Roberts voting no, stop, don't do that. One of my proudest achievements on the assembly was being able to protect private property rights and grandfather rights and being part of the RSAC. I was the RSAC president for 3 years and getting those road service areas where they had control of their own destiny and their own little communities and things like that. That's one of the few things that I can look back on and say it was worth my time. Otherwise, I would have been like, oh, it's hard. That's a hard work. But we need to do better about getting those people out there and bringing not just people that we know. Tammie Wilson that's a household name. We know Tammie Wilson, but we need to bring some new people in. And that's why we've got like Jimmy Cash. He's doing well. We got Miguel Ramirez here in the chat room. He's with us. So we've got some new names, but we need to be better about it. And we need to reach out to that unwashed mass in the middle and see and get them to put up some candidates as well. We need some balance back to what's going on.
But, we have to protect people at the same time. I mean, with the Facebook and all the rest and the bashing that happens, right? It's with people you don't even know, right? And don't even know you and how you have that kind of contact. But, for this election, we have ran a huge door-to-door campaign, not hanging things on the doors. We're literally knocking on each and every door. We've hit over 4,000 at this point because we got people in every area. And that's what we're hearing is people they honestly just want to be left alone, right? They want to keep their taxes down because between heating oil, electric, and food, I mean, ever since COVID and everything rising after that, nothing has really gone back down to where it was pre-COVID. And it's because people bought it, right? I mean, you still had to have food, you still had to have building supplies. I mean, and when people started paying the higher prices, it just continued at that same level, but your jobs and the rest did not grow at that same level. So I think in Fairbanks, what you're seeing more and more of is people have to make that decision, right, on whether or not they can afford to stay here. And that is sad.
Well, and I think the special election that you recently had speaks to that. If this had happened maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they may have had a better chance. But with everything that's gone on, the lockdowns and people being disgruntled about that, the economy, the inflation that's happening, they looked at this and said, wait, you want 10 million more from us? We got no more to give. And I think you saw that in the reaction of people who, I mean, I think they expected I think they expected to win. And I think they expected to win. And I think they expected it to be a much bigger victory for them, that they thought people were in their corner. But I think that was kind of a rude awakening. And that shows me that there are people out there who do care when you hit the hot button and you get them involved. They got hot buttoned on this thing. There was a bigger turnout for that election than I've seen in any special election in forever. And I think it shows, like you say, I think it's about right now, it's about the pocketbook and the economy, and that there is no more blood in the stone.
But they raised it. They took the budget they had, right? And they raised it $10 million. So we say, no, we can't afford any more. So what does the assembly do? They increased it anyway, all the way up to the revenue cap. They fully funded what we call, the puppy palace, right? Because $33 million, it's got to be some kind of palace, right? I mean, it's just crazy. Everything we tried to express during that special election, again, went on deaf ears. And, then we had the mail-in ballots only. They did the whole thing with Barbara Haney and, doing things. I mean, just one thing after the other. And then you wonder why people don't want to run, right? I mean,
right.
You have family, you have jobs, if you have your own business, that could be bad, because we've seen people in their own businesses get, hammered until they can't afford to be able to be a participant on that. And that's not what local politics are supposed to be about, right? It's supposed to be about, coming in and helping represent your area, and even though I know it's borough wide, you hope to have like a variety of people, what they think, where they live. And instead, it's come down to, honestly, like last year, you look at it was outside money. It was money that we couldn't compete with. At the end of the day, who can keep, sending flyer after flyer.
$100,000 of outside money that came into on a local borough race. All this. I mean, a race where I think the most I ever raised when I ran for the assembly, I think the most I ever raised was like $7,000 or $8,000, something like that. And these people were pouring $100,000 into these local races. I mean, it's crazy. And like you said, their behavior. And as I said early, and that you weren't listening, but as I said early in the last hour, I said the bottom line is they don't care what they have the power. They're going to exercise the power because they believe that they know better than us how to fill in the blank, raise your kid, spend your money, utilize your property, whatever it is, they know better. So they're going to utilize it. Just like, as you said, people are getting frustrated at sections of public testimony where they get, shouted down or demeaned or whatever else is going on in the public testimony. That's just a prime example of the exercise of power because it's allowed to. We should not.
Both sides, right? It's both sides. It's not just one side. The last meeting I went to before they decided, oh, wait, maybe after 3 meetings, people really don't want mail-in ballots. In fact, we can't even get our own side out to help support us. I mean, they had like one person at the last time who ends up getting quoted. But literally, there were assembly members that would just perch up, right? Ready to attack, individuals who, for a lot, were their first time testifying. I mean, when I get up there and stuff, I'm not shocked. It's like, whatever. Give it your best shot. Ask whatever question you want to ask, but when you get someone up there, you can tell how nervous they are, giving the information that they want to give, and then to be questioned on the validity. Where did you get it? How do you know? I mean, public testimony is the time you give what you want to give. You as the assembly member, take all that in, from all sides before you make that decision to move forward or to vote yes or whatever you do. But to go in there and kind of just give them the third degree because they decided to take some time and be there till 11:30, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that's why you have to have a great presiding officer, right? Otherwise, that's really, at the end of the day, the decorum is a reflection on how that presiding officer is losing control on both sides. On some of the way the testimony is happening and how the assembly members are acting.
Well, and when I was on the assembly, it was very rare for a assembly member to actually ask a testifier a question, and it was limited. Like they would, you can ask one question, but then we're not going to interrogate the person who's giving their public testimony. And some of the testimony that I've listened to, because some people have sent me snippets of some of this testimony, I'm like, where is the presiding officer saying that's out of order? I mean, you cannot argue with somebody from the dais. That's not the way it's supposed to be, but it's being allowed to happen. So where is the pushback on that? I mean, this is, you're right. This is on both sides. We need to figure this out. And maybe that means that we need to be a little more prepared when we come in with public testimony with the bibliography and footnotes. And, here's the study here, and here's it is, and here it is. And I'll email you the full list of my footnotes on my 3-minute speech to you so that you can know that I'm not lying. I did my homework, I don't know. Maybe that's what it takes to get this done.
And my favorite part is, are you aware? Every question starts out with, are you aware? Because otherwise it means it's not a question, right? I want to make a statement. Right. That's all I'm doing. And that's what's happening. And they're not saying, could you explain more, or don't understand what you just said. They're wanting to give their chance to, they're basically debating before it's in front of them with that person who comes up.
It's interesting to watch, and I've got some thoughts on that as well. We're going to continue. Tammie Wilson is our guest candidate for the Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly. Again, you folks down on the peninsula and in the Mat-Su, I suggest you kind of watch this closely, because as goes Fairbanks, could go your communities if you're not paying attention. Let's continue the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
It's interesting because, as you said, when some assembly member says, "Are you aware of blank?" As a testifier, they'll cut you off if you come back and say, well, that's not necessarily true because of blah. And they're like, oh, no, that's not. I mean, I'm not here to debate you. I'm just saying, are you aware that here's my statement? Here's my fact. And so they've gotten really good at it. But I mean, maybe we need to pull the Roberts rules out and have every assembly member on our side go voraciously through Robert's rules and basically say, point of order, Madam President, we cannot debate to start doing that kind of, maybe that gets old, but I mean, at least we're making a point on our side that that's not how it's supposed to be done, right? Because the assembly is governed by Robert's rules, and we should be paying attention to that.
Well, and remember when they did the whole, they finally put the election on, didn't extend the rules, didn't do all the things they were supposed to do. And the explanation was given by the clerk was, well, nobody called them on it. And I'm just like, since when does somebody have to call someone else on the rules? That's why you have, an attorney, a clerk, others who should say, hey, you got to do these things to be able to move it forward. But I was like, okay, so we say nothing, we could do anything we want. That's a new rule.
I get a feeling that Renee Broker or Mona Drexler would have been like, Madam President, Mr. President, that's we can't. I'll be honest. This is my personal opinion. I am not impressed by the current borough attorney. And I'm a little frustrated with some of the things that are being said. The ethics committee, after delivering a verdict of saying that no action should be taken with the whole Barbara Haney thing, then said they'd like to meet to help clarify the ethics rules, and that they delivered it. They said they'd like to meet to do this, and then they were informed by the borough attorney that they were not to meet. That in fact they were only to be activated by an actual ethics complaint. That's the only time they could legally meet, and they could never meet outside of that to discuss anything more, and to shut up and sit down, essentially, by the borough attorney. And, it's just one more thing for me, one more thing. But you're right. We've got to get better at, I hate saying playing the game, but we've got to get better at understanding what the rules are and how it is, and say, and call it up and say, point of order. There should be, this stuff starts happening. There should be points of order being called all the time at that point.
Well, that's part of it. And the other is, we need to make sure that, whoever gets elected, that you keep in mind that whoever's in charge of the assembly, first question they should be asking, are you going to keep control of what's going on both sides? Right. I mean, that is a pertinent question to go with it. And because you said, why won't more people step up, to run? Well, think about it. How many people on the outside are looking at what's going on right now? I mean, just use the example, Brett Rotterman, went and pretty much got defeated the extra 200 something thousand for the, puppy palace. Right. And then Jill jumps right on in. And it's like, maybe you guys ought to reconsider. Right. I mean, actually almost becoming part of the debate as assembly member, and shockingly they reconsider, and they spend another 200 something thousand dollars to design something that I think the majority of the public has said, not that we just don't want, but we can't afford it. This is not the time to be doing things like that. But
was that last night? Because I saw Barbara.
It was a week ago. It was during the finance committee.
Oh, Barbara just said well, that must have been last week. Because she goes, they just appropriated more money for the puppy palace at the last finance meeting.
Yep.
So it's not just $33 million; it's now $33.2 million for.
But he won the vote to start with, though. He got people to vote no, not to increase it, just to turn around and not just be debating his fellow people, but the attorney too.
I got questions. All right, let's continue on. Tammie Wilson is our guest candidate for Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly. We're going to jump back into it here. Please like and share, like and subscribe, ring the bell, do all the YouTube-y things and everything else. Let's get more people involved in this situation if we can. This is how we win, by participating, but we need more people to participate. So if you haven't liked it yet or shared, now's the time.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Yes, I am. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Tammie Wilson is our guest. She's a candidate for the Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly. We've been talking about some of the things that have been happening up there. And Tammie, I have watched over the last 10 years since I left Fairbanks. I've watched over the last 10 years the entire political landscape in Fairbanks kind of shift, and it has gone more towards a more progressive bent overall, it seems like. There's still some bastions and some holdouts, but as you mentioned earlier, it seems like people of all philosophies are starting to reach that go, no-go point of can we stay because of the cost of living and everything else. How does that affect this next election, do you think? And what are you doing as a candidate to reach out to people who may not align with you 100% philosophically, but may agree with some of that, or at least maybe even on the one key component of the economy and the economics of it? What does it look like, and what are you doing to talk with those folks?
So I think we learned a lot from the May 7th election, right? I mean, they came out in droves. It kind of showed, I guess I would have agreed with your statement before that election that maybe we turned a little bit more blue than we were red. But that election showed that when you have certain topics, it doesn't really matter which side you're on. It really comes down to your family and what you can afford to do. And I mean, that's why this time, I'll tell you, last year we didn't take the time out that we should have done to go talk to people. And we literally, have been going out, talking to people, knocking on the doors, explaining anything from, what a borough is to a city, which that was always a fun one when you're trying to do that in, without a lot of other information to go along with it, because people want to know, right? They want to understand how government works, how decisions are made, what they can do to, again, make it to where they're not being infringed on their own property. And also, what goes along with that on the other side is there are other people who live in very tight zoning, right? Because they don't want certain things happening next to them. And that's what zoning really is all about, right? I live in a general use area, so I know just about anything can move next to me. If I live in town and I'm, single family housing, I know certain things shouldn't happen, and we got to make sure that is what's going on. So people can start being more reassured that based on where they live and their zoning and all the rest, that they can do the things that they bought that property for, and then know that the borough's not going to come in and change the rules. And I think that's one of the biggest things right now is it keeps getting tighter and tighter no matter where you live. And that's not why people live here.
Right.
They live here to have that freedom. Grandfather rights, like you talked about, knowing you bought your property to do this, and all of a sudden it's not going to change, and you can't do that any longer.
Well,
but they
and
got
it
to get
comes,
involved.
yeah, and it comes to it's a finite amount of money, right? I mean, at some point we have to realize government's nature is to grow. We know that. That's a given, right? Government's nature is to grow, to justify its own existence, and to continue to expand. And it doesn't make the people in it evil or anything else. That's just the nature of bureaucracies and of government in and of itself. And then we get elected bodies who, I think pretty much everywhere have never seen a dollar that they didn't want to spend. Right. They love to do that. And then you get people with philosophies of where government is the answer to every problem. And now we've got that perfect combination of all of those things coming together, government growing, legislators or, legislative bodies, assemblies, et cetera, all wanting to spend money. And then the philosophy of government is the answer to every solution. And that is what we have right now. The problem is there is a finite amount of money out there. And even people who may philosophically say, well, we'd love to have government do this or that or the other thing, when they have to pay for it, then that's where the rubber hits the road and they go, wait, I've got no more. When I left Fairbanks, I had the pro-con list, right? Because Fairbanks is my home, born and raised. My mother was born there. My grandmother was born north of Fairbanks. My family's been there for years. I loved Fairbanks. I still love Fairbanks, but I didn't. But my question was, if I keep going the way that I'm going, making the money that I'm making, spending the money that I'm spending on, costs and utilities and everything else, where will I be when I retire? And I realized I would be busted. I would not be able to live. And that's when I had to start making decisions. I'll never leave Alaska, but I made that decision at that point. And that was one of the key factors, was the cost of living. I saved $5,000 in utilities in the first 8 months after moving down to the Matsu. Now, I'm not saying everybody should do that. I'm just saying it has to be a key factor when people are looking at their finances, and when they're making those votes, they have to decide.
Well, absolutely. And you take that on top of feeling like you're being told what to do more and more. But even right now, it's like, well, what more revenue can we get to, like you said, because now we don't have enough. What about all the land that the borough owns? They own tons of land. They don't need to subdivide it. They can make agreements, right? You buy this chunk of land, and just like they used to do when Alaska came, you must, survey it by this. You must build or have some kind of development by this. Because the whole point is to get it back on the tax rolls, right? Not for the borough to hang on. And I think with the animal shelter, that was the first frustration for me, is we bought land. The borough owns so much land. And what do? They go and take a piece of prime land, off the market to put on a public building, in which even after testimony, you got to give it to the veterinarians up here. They have been super involved. It's like, you can do this, or you could do this for less. That would be better for the animals. And what was their response? Instead of taking one of those ideas, let's go spend another $200,000 so we can go from a 35% design to 65% and see if we can do more of what people are asking us. Well, the most are asking you not to spend the money. So how does spending more money solve the problem? And then how do you as an assembly not just debate each other, but debate the mayor, because you can watch the mayor, how much he comes into the discussion, and especially the attorney, right? Who just kind of tries to guide in her way which way she wants things to happen. That's not what debate's for. By the time it gets there, it's about the assembly members and having, that back and forth, mending, doing whatever you need to do, and only getting advice if necessary to make sure things stay legal. But I'll be honest with you, as long as we have the current attorney we have, everything has to be signed off by her. And if she doesn't like something, you have no way of getting it through. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. So, the reason the state has different attorneys, right? One for the governor, one for the legislature, is because there's a conflict of interest. And the same thing here. You don't need to go government. We have more than one attorney, but one of the attorneys in that office should be appointed to the assembly and one should be for the mayor. And that way, you know that they're watching out for you, right? And your duties, not the conflict with the administration. And it doesn't matter who the mayor is. There's a conflict between the administration and the assembly when you got one person basically representing both of their needs.
I mean, I agree with that 100%, 100%. What do you think are going to be the issues facing you if you're elected to the assembly? What are the big issues coming forward? I mean, obviously the puppy palaces. I mean, $33 million for this building. I mean, my mind is just blown. But I mean, what are the other big issues that are facing, the Fairbanks North Star Borough, and what will the assembly be tackling in your mind? And what are the important ones?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is, we took on extra powers, right? Like Parks and Recreation, like animal control, a whole lot of different things. I think it's time to go back and have those discussions with the public and say, okay, you wanted to have this, fill in the blank, and here's how much it costs you now, and here's what you get for your money. Is that something at this point you want to continue to do at this level? I mean, do you want more? Do you want less? Because we are, like I said, we're up to the revenue cap because I think they left $7, I believe, between the cap and how much they spent this last year. So there is no room whatsoever. They were so sure that they would win that they already had everything figured out. And then they end up, using that other 10 million. And, the discussion with the school district, nobody wants to have a school closed, but at the same time, you can't have schools half empty. So you got to do one of two things. You got to bring students back, right? Or you have to consolidate the schools so that, you don't have all that overhead. But with every school that closes, that becomes part of the borough too, right? The borough gets those buildings back. And what are we going to, what did they do with the first one when Joy closed, right? It became the Joy Community Center. So it took on more responsibility, put more things in there, made a bigger footprint on something that was given back to us because there's no plan whatsoever except that we'll just spend more money. We won't make those hard decisions, and I think right now, just concentrating on that and getting things back to where people feel like they've got some breathing room, and then, like you said, stepping back on road service areas and fire service areas. I mean, when I want to change a fire door out, right, the same door I have, why am I going through a huge process just to replace it? For the borough to eat more of your money to say, well, whether you can do it or not. Or I know there was like a kitchen project by one of them that was supposed to be done. And because of all the things the borough made them do, they didn't get it all done. And that's crazy because, why are we not supporting, all these things that were supposed to be being ran by the user group? And instead, the borough has now become the user group.
Well, and that's the same thing we saw in the road service areas. The borough has very, very limited road powers in the forms of the road service areas. And yet we saw the Public Works Department was basically taking over and trying to be a road department. They were trying to tell the people in the communities what they could and couldn't do with the money that they collected from themselves to improve their roads. And thank God Renee Broker was there because she basically it was, again, one of my proudest moments is basically when she told them to shut up and sit down. You don't have the power to do that. This is the people's decision that live in the area. And I was happy with that. But again, this is the nature of government, is to grow and to consume and to take to powers. This is why it was and most people in Alaska, the average person doesn't understand the difference between a first class and a second class borough. They don't understand the difference between cities, municipalities, and boroughs and things like that. And so they just assume, oh, this must be a borough issue. And in that assumption and in that ignorance, they actually give the borough more power than they actually have. And they try and exercise. It was the same thing during COVID, right? The borough was taught, how do we shut down? We need health and safety. We need health and social services powers so we can shut. No, you don't. You don't need that. We've already got that at other levels. We don't need you to have more power because that would translate to more money. It would cost more in the long run. Final thoughts for this segment, Tammie.
Well, and after we come back, the other thing we should talk about is our assessor and how they're taxing our nonprofits, and we already had one try to go through the process, and they ended up immediately into court, right? And nobody can, I mean, that's just throwing more money, after something on it. We have to rein back in what we are as a second-class borough and make sure that, we are giving people exactly what they need, and part of that is being able to continue to pay the, property taxes and the food and all the rest of it, and be able to still enjoy being in the interior. Nothing against Wasilla, but, we love living up here and we want to remain here.
Yeah. All right. Tammie Wilson's our guest. We're going to continue one final segment dead ahead, The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return to more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes on Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, Tammie Wilson is our guest. We continue. The school thing is interesting, Tammie, because we've had a declining enrollment for 10 years and more than 10 years. It was declining before I left, so probably 15 years. And we've got a projected increase in the decline, or a continuation, or I guess I should say, of the decline moving forward. And yet anytime you start talking about this, we should be more efficient. We should consolidate. We should bring more, if we've got schools that are 40% capacity, we should combine two of them and make it 80% capacity. And then we could close. But I mean, the fervor and the emotion and everything else. And then, like you said, what do we do with the buildings? Instead of then selling the buildings and the property and putting them on the tax rolls for some other purpose, I mean, hell, you probably could have converted a school into a puppy palace and been okay.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You got these $20 million schools that you've built. You probably could have spent another $5 million and renovated it into something different instead of having some purpose-built situation. And instead of getting them on the tax rolls, like you said, they turn it into a community center and they just expand the footprint. And now it costs more. And that, I mean, we need to start making smart decisions instead of emotional decisions and figure out where we go from here. Maybe it'll rebound. Maybe the school enrollment will go up 5 years from now or 10 years from now. Maybe. But based on where we're at right now, it's a continual decline. We can't keep doing what we're doing and expect that it's going to work out okay.
Well, and, when we're spending money on buildings, right, instead of on kids, there's a difference. I know they said they have the same teachers and that's a higher cost. Well, they do have the same amount of teachers because those buildings are 40%, full, right? So you still have to move the class room over and you're getting rid of the building to start with. But it's the opportunity that you're able to give too, because we know that some of our schools, when they're at a different size, you can offer more things instead of splitting that in between. And what my frustration was with the last closings, they made it completely political. They didn't talk to the families. They didn't talk to the kids. They didn't show them the opportunities they could have if they consolidate. They made it solely emotionally driven. And that was so unfair to the families to do it that way, and I think because at the last minute, they were hoping this new pot of money would show up to keep things the way they are. And they're doing nothing to try to get those kids back except homeschooling, which they make $2 million off their homeschooling program. After they pay out what they pay out, they still have an additional $2 million. Isn't that kind of crazy? Maybe you should pay more into that program. Maybe you would get more kids coming back into the system.
Making a profit, right? We're making a profit off the whole thing at this point.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, the whole school thing is it's astonishing to me. And then, of course, we tie into all the things that are going on with like the school board and everything else. And you wonder why people are starting to distrust the system. My first question after we talked a little bit about the latest debacle at the school board was, why are you people still sending your kids back to schools that are controlled by people like this? Why? I mean, why? Why would you? I never did. I paid property taxes. I still pay property taxes in Fairbanks. I'm still paying property taxes into a system that I never used. Right. Because we homeschooled all our kids. And I'm like, I'm not going to do this because I don't agree with what's going on. And like you said, making sure the money actually reaches the students instead of just standing up infrastructure or supporting administration or doing anything else. That's the thing. They don't want to cut back on things that affect, I guess, them, being the administration or the powers that be. They just want the more, and again, they'll punish you if they don't. I watched the debate on Facebook. By the way, the internet is cancer. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that, but you mentioned it earlier, these Facebooks, people being attacked and the social media. It's cancer, folks. I don't know. I mean, I have a Facebook page. Obviously, we're broadcasting on Facebook. I have a personal Facebook page, which is filled with food and Dungeons and Dragons stuff because I just delete everything that comes across my feed that's kind of because everything else, my wife made a comment. She said she made a comment about James Earl Jones dying. And she said it was just kind of this innocuous comment. And there were 235 comments lambasting her for trying to portray herself as a black woman or something. I mean, it was just like, she's like, I don't understand. I'm like, honey, stop. Just stop doing it because it's cancer. People just, there is no rational thought, in my opinion, on most of the stuff that you see on social media. And
the same person, right? Who
Yeah.
wants to do good, right? And next thing you know, that they're
Exactly.
trying to find something in your past or some friend you might have had that maybe you even hadn't had for 10 years, that finally did something. I mean, when you've got social media in all the forms there are at this point, why would people want to step up, right? And that's the sad part because
Yeah.
local government's only as good as the people you have on there.
No, and I remember, my wife had the hardest time, especially on my reelection campaign, because of some of the things that my opponent said and some of the things that were coming out. Social media at that time was really kicking off, and she was, she was hurt, and I was just like, stop paying attention to it. But you can't. Some people just can't stop paying attention to it, and so they, and so it is hard. It is hard. It's a sacrifice. I will say that right now. But we need more people to step up and to take the slings and arrows and be able to withstand it. That's what we need. We need to find those people. All right. Final segment. Tammie Wilson, our guest, The Michael Duke Show.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
One final segment now. Tammie Wilson is our guest candidate for the Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly. And there's a trio of you, right, Tammie, that are kind of on the conservative, smaller government side that are running, and you're kind of running together. You're kind of supporting each other and saying, if we're going to make a change, it can't just be one. It's got to be multiples to really make a difference. So let's talk about that. I kind of want to give you your free reign here in this last segment to talk about that, and then anything else that you would like to point out to the listenership as we finish up for the show today.
So, we talked about money, being one of the issues to start with, and one of the best ways to make your money go further is Jimmy Cash and Miguel Ramirez and I are all running for assembly. It would give us a 5-4 back on the assembly. So, it's not like a big majority, would be a point to where, back to like you said before, how do we find the things that we agree upon and build upon those? Because all the fighting and arguing that's going on isn't doing any good, for this community. We're going to have a big meet and greet in North Pole on Saturday from 4:30 to 6:30. So if you haven't met the candidates, we'll have the school board candidates there as well, which is April Smith and Loa Hubbard, Carol, and then John Coghill's running for mayor, and so he'll be there as well as our state representatives to actually just give people that opportunity, right, to ask the questions. I mean, there's a lot of doors in Fairbanks. It's a pretty big area, so it takes, we're all like walking different areas pretty much every day after we get off of work, but that's where you benefit, right? That's where you find out and let people know that, how this election will turn out will depend upon who gets out to vote. If we can get the group back out to vote that did on, May 7th, I think we'll do really well. If we don't, I think we'll see what happened to us again last year. But the whole thing is that to sit home and do nothing and complain, it's not an option, right? Because if you don't think they're going to come back after us again next May, or maybe even earlier, like February, where campaigning is almost impossible up here, they're going to do whatever they can to increase the amount of money that they can spend. Because like you said, sadly enough, that's what a lot of People who get elected just want more money, and they don't ever want to make the hard decisions on, can we afford to do these things, even though every household, in this state has had to make those decisions for years now, and you haven't seen that appear, whatsoever. So I think it's great because I think, we all stand for very similar things. I did find out, I did think that, the news miners question, the last one they have that we're answering is, do you want to become a city? Do we want to basically be Anchorage? Let's see, that didn't take 150 words. That took one, no, but it just shows you that's the way some people are trying to move, right? Because those questions don't just come out of the air. They come because people, are starting to discuss, how do I get more money? How do I get more powers? But can you imagine what it would cost us if anything like that would ever happen?
Right. Well, there's been, I want to say, I think it's 5 consolidation efforts over the last 35 years. And I remember the last one very well because we covered it exhaustively on the program. A consolidation, and what I mean by that for folks who don't understand is that the city of Fairbanks is inside the Fairbanks North Star Borough along with the city of North Pole. And if they decided to turn the Fairbanks North Star Borough from a second-class borough into a first-class borough, they would have to subsume all of the cities inside of it. Yep. And then what would it look like in the long run? Again, so many problems with that, so many issues with that. And I agree. That is a very dangerous idea because the borough has got very limited powers for a reason. And unless you want them out there running your roads and telling you can't put a speed bump up or a stop sign or something like that in your neighborhood, or gravel your roads or plow your roads or whatever, then you need to run away from that.
The cost would be insane. I mean, just you think the costs are bad now, but and then you ask, what some of the things that we need to do. We have to stop the assessor we have. The way she interprets the law, and she takes a parking lot that has to be used for a church or a nonprofit, and all of a sudden say, well, that's taxable because they're not doing the nonprofit work on that particular piece of property. That's never been the case, ever. You put on your church, you put on, maybe it's a food bank or other things to do. And then individuals may give you extra land so that you can grow your process so you can help more people. And was the borough think, oh, there's more revenue? Are we really that desperate in the borough that we're taking money away that's going to go back into the community to help those get up on their feet? I mean, to me, that is the lowest thing I've ever seen. We try to at least fix it a little bit, but again, we couldn't get through the attorney the fixes that really needed to be done, so that they're all like, well, go back to the legislature. We don't have to go back to the legislature to do the right thing.
We
and
have
I know the state, I think, has a new assessor. Maybe you should have him or her on. I don't know who they appointed, but that's what she kept telling us. Well, that's what the state assessor says. And we have to tax everybody up to, and not just that, everybody. One of the biggest things we heard May 7th is my assessments have gone up 20, 30, 40%, year after year. And then they would say, oh, but your mill rate, what we multiply it by, has gone down. So therefore you owe less money. That's baloney. There's no way that math works that way. It should go down if you had a really low mill rate, but it doesn't go down.
But even if that is, if it's going up 20% a year after 5 years, you've said my house is now worth twice what it was. If I could sell it for that, boy, I'd make a mint, right? I mean, that's the problem.
And it's on top of the COVID, right? So COVID had all this big spring none of it went down. I had a guy call me and say they believe that his shop has a residence inside of it. Never had before. The shop's been there for a long time. And the only way that he could get them to change it was he had to allow them not just in his shop, but into his actual residence at the same time. Well, you can only guess what he told them. But now he's paying this exorbitant amount because the rules work against the average person. And we just let it happen. So I mean, it's things like that we know that it's not a Republican or a Democrat type of issue. It is a local issue that is just wrong in so many ways.
We're coming down to the end here, Tammie. So anything we didn't hit on this morning that that we should touch on quickly here before we summate with your final thoughts?
At the end of the day, if people don't vote, we lose, right? It really is that simple. I love that people are like, well, my vote doesn't count. Well, did you actually get off the sofa and go and vote?
Well, wait
And
a
what
second. I got to make a point about that. I remember a race. Well, not too long ago. I'm old, so maybe it feels like it's not too long ago. I remember a race for borough mayor where Tammie Wilson was fighting it out, and Tammie Wilson lost the borough mayor's race by 12 votes. Don't tell me your vote. What was it? The Bart LeBon, Catherine Dodge race for the legislature? One vote. Don't tell me your vote doesn't count.
Well, and you can look at the current assembly and know that they're going to keep coming back at us, and the property tax is going to be the number one, right? Because they're going to need more money next year. They're going to have to make decisions that they don't want to make, or they have to get more money out of you. And everybody kept saying, well, it's only a one-time increase. Once that $10 million would have hit, that would have been a $20 million hit this last year. Not 10, but 20 million. And that stays there. That's the new amount, even when we renew the tax cap. So that's the other big thing. Yes, on the tax cap, we're renewing it, right? We're not breaking it. That's why it's a yes
right
time. And just a shout out to Barbara Haney for all the work that she's doing on that. There is more community involvement in this election than I've ever seen before, because sadly enough, financially, we can't raise $100,000. I think that we've seen Grier be able to raise and others, and we can't compete sometimes with all the union calls and texting because it's all free labor. So I'm just thankful, Michael, that I've got great people out there who are knocking on doors, talking to their neighbors, making things happen. That's what happened May 7th, and that's what will make us successful October 1st.
All right, Tammie, you're down to the last 2 minutes here. So final thoughts, your elevator pitch for people who may not know who you are and just hadn't heard anything. Give us the elevator pitch and how do folks help support you and do what we need to do?
Well, I think it's just getting back to basics, right? Making sure that road service areas and fire service areas can do what they were supposed to do, not over assessing our properties, right? And living within the means we do. And remember, every dollar that we spend is not our money, right? It's being responsible for what we have. And I know people are frustrated, and I talk to a lot of people, they don't think change will ever happen. Well, it can only happen if we get involved. And I think May 7th showed us that. When people got upset enough, they came out, they voted, and they made it happen, and that extra money didn't get spent, and we didn't grow by that much more. So, but I can't do it without you, right? I can only do it with all the volunteers that are out there and making sure that people take that step. And just remember, in the borough, you can vote any place, right? That says vote here, because we run borough-wide. So if you don't know where your precinct is, and we saw that May 7th, we had more question ballots than ever before because people didn't worry about where they needed to vote. They just voted, fill out their information. You get checked to make sure you're a voter, and it counts even though you don't make it quite to, where you live. So don't let that stop you. If it says it, go do it. And early voting starts next Monday. So you can just go to Shoppers Forum and by Planet Fitness and vote and not even have to worry about it on October 1st, because I think it sleeted last year about that time.
I think it may have. That's right. At-large voting. It's what needs to happen.
Yep.
All right. Well, we need to capitalize on the May 7th thing. We need to capitalize on what people saw, which was it's about the money, it's about the economy, and we need to capitalize on that. All right, Tammie Wilson, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. You got a Facebook page or website?
My personal Facebook page is Tammie Wilson. Just go right to it, and got questions, got anything,
get the answer. There you go. All right, Tammie Wilson, thank you so much. Hold the line. Folks, we're out of time. Tomorrow's Firearms Friday. Jacob Sullum from Reason Magazine will be joining us, Willie Wathel, and Top Shot Chris Chang. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, final bite, Tammie. Anything else? I mean, I think we've hit a lot here, but I mean, I agree with you. The May 7th vote showed us one thing. There is a will and an appetite to hold back the size and scope of government. Now we've got to figure out how to capitalize on that and get those people motivated to come out to the general instead of just the special. I mean, it was a great turnout for the special, but we need to get those people motivated to do that. Anyway, final thoughts.
Well, I think the biggest thing we learned on the May 7th election is people didn't know when the election was, right? So we had May 7th on everything. Vote no, May 7th. So you see October 1 out there on almost everything. I think we just assumed people knew when to vote, when in reality, a lot of them never voted. So, right now it's just really up to the community to remind people and not assume. right? Text people out, put it on your Facebook, start doing it now and letting people know come Monday, go out and vote, because at the end of the day, that's what counts.
Absolutely. You need to go out there, let your voice be heard, and remind people that this was really about putting more money back and keeping more money in your pocket. If you want to stay in Fairbanks, if you want to stay wherever you're at, when you go to these elections, to me, the first lens I look through is always the economic lens of what is it going to cost us, who pays, and what does it look like, and will we be able to sustain it? So I appreciate it. Tammie, thank you so much for coming on board and joining us. I will talk with you later this morning. I appreciate you coming on board today as always. All right. Thanks for doing it. Good luck. But we need to get Jimmy on here. We've had Miguel. We need to have Jimmy on here now. So tell him to call me. All right. Thank you so much for coming on board. All right, folks, we are out of time for today. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll be back tomorrow. Be kind. Love one another. And live well. We'll see you.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.